Hello and welcome back to the second part of my Guttman Chart video on how to track students' results. Okay, so what we've done in the part one of the video, I've set up my three sections, so my three areas of study in my exam. So I've got fields, electric fields, and motion. I've got my little subtotals on the right-hand side for each of the topics. I've got my overall total and percentage and ranks. Okay, so that was all covered in the last video. This part here is essentially about trying to set this out nice and neat and trying to get the results so it looks nice and clear with a bit of help from conditional formatting. I'll show everyone how to fix that in a second. So what I've done is I've just highlighted all the results and all the students. I'm just going to put a few borders around this. So up the top in your little boxes up the top, I'm just going to click, borders up the top, and that's just going to highlight all the borders in between. Okay. It's just going to make it nice and easy to highlight so we know exactly which boxes we need to fix. Okay, so just because the first top three rows are my main headings and my main sections, I'm just going to bold those. So I'm just going to press Control B, and that's just going to make it a bit easier to read. Okay, so for our next section, we're planning to set up the conditional formatting. So to set this up, what we need to do is we need to go to the marks row that I've just highlighted there. And what I want to do is we're going to start off with the questions that are worth 2 marks. I want to highlight all the boxes where 2 marks has been awarded, all the questions where 2 marks have been awarded, including the marks and including all the students. Once I've highlighted those first 5 columns, what I can do is I can highlight more for the questions that are worth 2 marks by simply holding Control. So I can hold Control, work our way down, and we can continue to highlight all the questions that are worth 2 marks each. So as we continue on, it can be painful at times, but the reason we want to do this is when a student is awarded 2 marks of these questions, we want that particular box to turn green, and I'll show you how that works in a second. So now that I've highlighted all my sections, I'm going to right click, and if I can move my head a little bit, I'll move my head to the left-hand side. When we right click, if you scroll down, you see a section that says conditional formatting. We want that to happen. Okay. So what they've done is in that box there is the range that I've selected. We don't want a single color. We want a range of colors. So we go to a color scale on the right hand side. There is one default, so they're water green and white. We don't really want that, or the one that I don't like using. I'm just going to select any one of these because I'm going to customize it myself. So what I want to do is if a student receives 0, I want it to turn red, so I'm going to highlight my minimum value with the color red. If somebody is awarded, let's say maybe 1 mark for this question, we want that to turn yellow, so I'm just going to click that with a yellow. You could do a orange if you wanted, and then the max value, we want the green. Okay, green's awarded for a good mark, so what I do is I highlight green. So as you can see at the top of my rows, all those columns are green because that's a maximum mark that we've awarded for that particular question. So if I was to jump in here and I jump onto Matt, and let's say for question 1B, if he's awarded 2 marks, I click 2, I tab across, and his cell turns green. So it gets really, really well color coordinated. Whereas if I look at Jonathan, let's say he gets 1 mark for that question, I click 1 and equals, that's currently a red because that's the lowest mark that's been available. What I'll do is I'll give Chase a 0. Okay. And as you can see, that 1 is now changed to an amber because that's the mid-range mark that we have been given. And Chase has got red because he's got 0. So that's working perfectly. Now what I want to do again is now repeat the process, except we're going to do the questions that are awarding 3 marks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the 3 there, question 4. That's worth 3 marks. I'm going to hold Control again, and we're going to continue to highlight through. Again, it can be painful, but we want all of this to just be individualized almost for each of the individual questions. Okay, as we scroll across, the last 2 are 1 marks, so I'm going to hold on that. I'm just going to let this one for the 3 questions. So once on the right-hand column, I forgot to press Done, so we'll just press Done. And then what we want to do is add another rule. Now that I've highlighted those columns, in that section, the range that I've selected, it's including the columns that are blue there, that we've ranged. I'm going to go to my color scale. I'm going to apply the exact same thing. So I'm going to choose my color range. So my minimum will be 0, my midpoint will be yellow, and my maximum will be green. and see how the top rows are now green. So if I press done there, if I go to one of these questions here, if I award 2 marks, previously in the other columns they were turning green, that 2 is now turning red, because if I do 1 and 0, you can see the color progression. Okay, so 0 is red, 1 is like a dark orange, 2 is more like a yellow, and then 3 is going to be green. So that's working really, really well. So I've done that for both 2 of them now. So I'm just going to delete those ones there. And then I'm just going to highlight my last 2 questions that are worth 1. So if you've got a few more range of questions, you might have to repeat this process a few times. But it's all the same. As long as you're highlighting those cells, again, we want to make my minimum red, my middle yellow, and my maximum green, just like the traffic light system. Okay, so that's my whole spreadsheet sorted. So anywhere I put it in, I can go 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Notice that for the questions that are worth a maximum of 2, it's turned green, but for where it's worth 3 marks, it's turned red, mainly because, again, if I go to the 1 and 0, we get that color coordination with that spread of marks. So once you enter all of the students' data, you'll notice that you get a nice range of colors of what it all looks like. Now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat this process again for our subtotals. Okay, so I'm going to highlight just the fields column that I've got there. That's my first subtopic, my first area of study. And again, I'm going to repeat the process. So again, this can be painful. Pick the wrong one. But once it's set up, it looks really, really good. Okay, as you can tell there that we've already entered a bit of data. So Suzanne's got a 12, so she's got like almost a light green, because that's our next highest from the 35, whereas the yellows are amber and the zeros have turned red, which is what we want, because 0 is the lowest mark that we can award. So now I'm going to do my electric fields, go to my color scale, highlight that, red, yellow, green. Again, for my motion, to my final area of study, because these sections are awarded different marks. So fields 35, electric fields 25, and motion 40. So I go, again, my minimum's red, middle's yellow, max green. So once you start doing 1 or 2 of these, should be the same. I'm going to do exactly the same for the totals. Okay, so I go, I want to go red, we'll go yellow, and we'll go green. Click done. I'll do it for the percentage as well. There we go. So red, yellow, green again. So we've got the percentages there. So Matt's got 12 out of 100, and he's also got 12%. Okay, because conveniently this is out of 100, but not every SACRA exam that you'll be doing will be 100. We're going to set up the rank, but the rank's slightly different. We just need to enter this data in reverse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all the cells. I click to add another rule. I go to color scale. This time, when I click my I want my medium, minimum, midpoint, and max. The lowest value is actually good in this instance. So whoever has the highest rank or the highest lowest number is good. So the minimum value I actually want to leave is green. So it's just we're doing this in reverse. My midpoint, I'm just going to use yellow, and then my max, I'm just going to use red. Okay, so as you can see, Matt is my #1 student at the moment, and that's green, that's good. So we can click done with that. And that's all of our conditional formatting completed. Now what we can do is, one thing I like to do is I like to add, right at the end is I like to add an average for each of the questions. So the average mark that was given for each of these 3 questions. I'm going to close the conditional formatting box, and I'm going to move my head to the right-hand side now. Now, with those fields, so what I want to do is in the cell just below where sourcing is, okay, I'm just going to equal a formula. So I'm just going to go equals average. So I want to find the average mark of these questions. So what I'm going to do is all of the students' results, so all the way from the top to Justin down to sourcing, I'm going to highlight those cells, as you can see. My job's not completed though, because I want to close bracket that, and I want to divide that mark by how many marks that question's been awarded. Okay, mainly because down below we can set it up as a percentage mark. So as I click enter, it says divide by 0 because there's no data to enter. But what I'm going to do is once I click that cell, I'm going to bring my cursor to the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to drag that across. Okay, I'm going to drag it all the way across to where the question 26 is my final question. And what you'll find is there's a lot of divide by zeros because we haven't entered the data. That's okay. So once we enter the data, that will be entered. I'm just going to click the percentage sign up the top so you can go format as a percentage. That's the same as on Excel and Google Docs. So as I click that, it gives me a percentage. I'm going to reduce the amount of decimal points that I want. So it's just a whole number. And just to format it nicely, there's a few things that we have to do here. So I apologize, I'm going too quick. Just sort of backtracking the video if need be. That row 20 that I've got, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. And then I'm going to tilt the writing. So there's a little A up the top here that lets us rotate the text rotation. If I click that, I just want to bring it so it's written rotate upwards. Okay, and as we rotate upwards, then we can get everybody's mark a bit easier. It's a little bit easier to read. Also with that, I like to set up a little bit of conditional formatting with these boxes. So I'm going to highlight those boxes. I'll right click and scroll back down to our conditional formatting. I'm not going to do a color coding or the color ranging. I'm going to set up a single color and I'm going to highlight it or sort of flag it when scores are less than. So if I go less than, so format cells if they're less than, and I'm going to go 0.5. So if any marks, if any particular questions less than 50% of my class get incorrect, I'm going to tell the conditional formatting that I'm going to change the color. So then the box is going to turn either red, or you can make just the text turn red. I might just do the text. So as I go, text turns red, I click done. As you can notice, with my question number 4, okay, so row H that I've got there, only 33% of the mark. That's my average mark for that question. So for me, that's going to flag it. So when I'm going through the solutions with the students, I can talk about it a little bit more and also maybe use an exam question in the next in the following lessons to try and just make sure that all the students are understanding with that particular concept. Now, the only last little bit to do, and then we're virtually done in setting up, is I just want to get the average marks for each of my 3 subtopics and the total and percentage. I like using the mean and the median. So what I'm going to do is in that first fields column, subtopic right down the bottom, I'm going to go equals, and I'm going to do average again. So this is just going to find me the average mark of all the columns. So I'm going to highlight all of those subtopics, columns. Once I do that, I'm going to press enter. We don't need to divide it by anything because I just want to find the overall mark. So at the moment, we're averaging 0.8. We're not doing too well, but that will be fine once we enter all the data. Once I click that cell, I'm going to highlight the bottom right-hand corner of that cell, and you get the arrow come across. I'm going to click that and scroll it across all the way to percentage. So that's just copied the formula across. So I'm going to get the average for each of those subtopics underneath. In this box, I'm going to write the mean. So that's my average mark within that box. You could write average if you want, depending on what you want to use. Just underneath that, I'm going to type in median. And I'm going to get my median mark, which is my middle score. So it gives me a nice center of data. So in that cell below the mean, I'm just going to hit the equals. I apologize for my dog. I'm going to type in median, open bracket, and I'm just going to do exactly the same with the average. I'm just going to highlight those cells. So I highlight those cells and I click enter, and I get my median score. So my median score is 0. As we can tell, I've got all that data there, and it all goes to 0. I scroll all the way across, and that's everything completed. So that is my whole Guttman chart completed. If you have any further questions, come and see me at school or send me an email or leave a comment on the YouTube video. Thank you for watching. Bye.